Fabrice gives us 30 seconds before we're up. We have time for some questions, I guess, quick questions. Yes, sir. Microphones, please.
Hi, Willem Vreken from the University of Ghent. I have a question for the first two presenters. When you presented your results for the estimation of the carbon footprint of the ICT solution, did you calculate the use phase of the equipment, or did you take into account the entire life cycle?
In our case, we looked at the use phase rather than the entire life cycle, so we weren't looking at e-waste issues or all those sort of things for rollout technologies, if that's what you mean. So there is obviously a whole argument about that. We're replacing technology rather than using old technology, but that is not an area we looked at.
Yes, if I would understand what your question is, then I could answer. We took into consideration the materials, the energy consumption, and the usage. That's all. Okay.
10:30. Shall we break now, or do we have time for another question or two? One or two more questions. Yes.
Catalina McGregor. I'm the chair of UK Government CIO CTO Council Green ICT Delivery Subgroup, long name. This debate is tough for us. We are about to produce our strategic vision document for government, and we took into consideration a great number of studies on swapping kit or going for a quick fix for energy targets. And I must say, what we found is a lot of the data was not necessarily there, and after speaking to some of the mining companies about the procedures for dynamite blasting, collecting gold, collecting fragment metals, and the lack of ability to re-separate the fragmentary mixes of metals and toxins at the end, we came to the conclusion that we'd like to support keeping and sweating your assets, as you might have heard John Suffolk say, for the time being. So that's the answer we're giving.
Any comments from the panel?
It's obviously a complicated question about the nature of assets and the assets you sweat. I mean, part of the solutions that we're looking about involve means to sweat existing assets, like lorries moving around, for example, making greater use of existing infrastructure. So I don't think it's quite a simple black and white solution to what we're talking about, as I'm sure you acknowledge. The key point is there are enormous opportunities here to make contributions to emissions abatement in ways that haven't been factored into Socolo's wedges and so on yet. And they need to be considered and they need to be addressed. Some of these things are going to happen anyway. The rollout of broadband is going to happen anyway because of consumer demand. As it rolls out, if we're sensible about it, we can make sure that we're capitalising the opportunities as we go. That's perhaps different to what the UK government might have been looking at, which is where you might direct UK government funds to the rollout of things. I'm a great believer this wave is upon us. This wave is going to swamp us. We just need to make sure it works the right way for carbon.
Thank you. The last question over there, and then we'll break.
Thank you very much. It's Kevin Foster from BT. I read the Australian report with great interest. I think it was a fantastic report and stimulated me to think about, in particular, broadband and the broadband ecosystem. I like the idea very much of the presence-based power, and I'm thinking about, well, how do we apply that to broadband, residential gateways, and customer premise equipment. And it seems to me that to do that, we need an end-to-end approach because there are many components that have to work in series to make that presence-based power, particularly for broadband, work. And I personally think the ITU and other standards development organisations do have a key role to play there. So in my mind, I'm trying to translate the good ideas into sort of tangible actions we can take in bringing the standards for ICTs together with regard to that. So I think, from my point of view, the ITU has a great role to play there. I'd also like to suggest, building on your ideas from that paper, like to suggest the concept of information-based power as well as presence-based power. In a broadband IP network, there's lots of kind of keep alive packets flying around, which don't necessitate broadband links being up at full capacity or home networks being up at full capacity all the time. So the idea of looking at the broadband ecosystem, looking at ways of keeping things in a kind of a standby mode with low power, low capacity links, but having that really available instantaneously. If there's high information content needed to get to the endpoint, then these systems can begin to come up very quickly. And I think that requires standards right across the patch to look at this concept of both presence-based power and information-based power. So they're my kind of observations on the session. I think it was there's some very, very valuable work here, and that should stimulate now into an action phase in the standards world.
Absolutely. Thank you for your comments. I think you're absolutely right. This is very, very useful information. I know I'll be able to use it as we move forward in the work we do. And I wanted to take this opportunity actually to thank the panel for all of this information, for Fabrice for accelerating his talk to make sure we sort of more or less met time. And so thank you very much.